There's some differences between how things are done in the U.S. and how things are done here in Mexico. And some of them might shock you. For example, here in Mexico, you can buy alcohol at 18 years old. In the United States, you got to be 21 to buy alcohol and liquor. But good old Mexico, once you hit 18, you can get it. My daughter Haley will be turning 18 in about a month, and she's already counting down the days. Daddy, I don't have to wait till I'm 21. I can get it when I'm 18. And so in less than 30 days, me and her are going to go out and sip on some margaritas and some tequilas because they don't have to wait to 21 in Mexico. Another thing that's slightly different, I got a bunch of these things, man. I think y'all gonna find some of these interesting. So, for example, most restaurants that you go to, they don't give you refills. If you order a soda or water or whatever, water comes in a bottled water unless you specifically ask for a glass of water, which the water's filtered if you do get that. But everything, a can of Coke, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, apple juice, orange juice, they come bottled or in a can, and that's it. They don't give you refills. Now, there are a couple of restaurants here. Most of them, the few are American chains where some will give you refills, but the overwhelming majority of restaurants that you go to, you ain't getting a free refill. You want to buy another can of soda or another can of juice or another bottle of water if you want something else to drink. So in the States, they just pound all that liquid down your cup and you can get 8 or 9 refills at the restaurant, but that ain't happening here in Mexico. Another thing, still thinking, talking about restaurants, is when you go to these restaurants, the vast majority of them, they won't have salt and pepper on the table. Just something that they don't have. So if you want salt and pepper, typically you need to ask for it because it's not going to be at the table. So again, differences, not bad, not good, just different, you know what I mean? And I don't know what the blood pressure rate here is like in Mexico, but they don't have that salt thrown out on the table like in every restaurant in the States. You got it everywhere. Another thing that stands out to me here is breastfeeding. Women out here, they breastfeed. They just throw the baby up, boom, and the baby get to sucking. All out in the open, everybody seeing. But here, they don't get all uptight. They don't get all prudish about it. In the States, folk be getting all offended, acting like they disgusted, want to get in an argument with you while you're feeding your baby. But here, it's laid back. People feeding their baby, nobody got no complaints. Ain't nobody staring them down, looking at them all crazy. Whether they be in the restaurant, they'll be outside on the curb, sitting down in front of a convenience store, milk feeding the baby, be at the mall, just sitting down on the bench, and ain't nobody got no complaints. But in the United States, man, folk want to whine and hoop and holler and talk about how offensive it is, and it's like, man, most of y'all probably sucked on one of them things when y'all was a baby, and now y'all sitting up here tripping, acting like y'all don't understand. You know, it's strange, man, but here, mothers get to be mothers without all the extra, without all the extraness that goes along with it. Another thing that you will tend to see here in Mexico, still on this restaurant tip. I don't know. I honestly didn't line this up like this, but it's not unusual to see families roll up in the restaurant 15 to 20 deep, especially on Sunday. Family here, the culture here as it relates to family, it's a big thing. Families involved in pretty much all aspects of life. So when there's a birthday, everybody comes to the birthday, especially when a person turns 15 years old. They got, again, birthday parties, anniversaries, all of that. And so families, it's a big deal. So it's not unusual on a Sunday especially, you can be going to the mall and there'll be 15, 20 folk deep in the family, just walking down the aisle, just taking their sweet old time, enjoying time with each other, enjoying the shopping and all of that. And mostly they just hanging out, talking. And another thing about, even at the restaurants rolling in 15, 20 deep, oftentimes you'll see folks just sit there for hours in the restaurant. Nobody's rushing them out like in the States. They trying to turn tables over real quick, and they generally try and push you out the door. But here in Mexico, nah, they don't. They don't rush you. In fact, when you got to ask for the bill. You got to raise your hand and you got to ask to receive the bill. And then when they bring you the bill, and they can clear your table off and everything, they'll bring you the bill. And until you raise your hand again and say, "Hey, I'm ready to pay," they won't come out with the terminal. They won't come out and collect the money until you call them back again and say, "Hey, I'm ready to pay." And so here you can literally just take your time and just enjoy yourself, enjoy your family, enjoy the talking, and just have a great time. Another thing in relationship to restaurants, it's not unusual to see little jumping gyms or what do you call those, bounce houses or bouncy gyms or little playgrounds in many of the restaurants. And so while families out enjoying themselves and talking, and especially like at bars and whatnot, the kids can go off to the play area, and many times they'll have an attendant in that playroom keeping an eye on the kids while you hanging out and enjoying family and friends. So it's a good experience for the kids because they're not tied down to the table. They're not crying and making noise and disturbing all the other patrons because they're hanging out in that playroom and they just having a good old time, just playing and having a good time. So again, very family oriented. It's a beautiful place if you have kids, if you're trying to raise a family and you want some old fashioned values. Man, I ain't even gonna knock it. Mexico is a great place to bring your children, raise a family, and get used to some of those values. What else? Man, I got a lot. I can go on and on and on, and so I'm gonna read off a few more of these things. Speeding. One thing that's been different here, in the United States, they'll set up speed traps everywhere. They always try and catch your behind and trap you and try and get you because they always trying to get that money. And so, but here it's different. People be flying down that road. They can ride as slow or as fast as they want. And now, unless you just doing something just absolutely ridiculous in terms of speeding, and when I say ridiculous, I mean you really got to be flying down the road. But even when you're flying down the road, oftentimes they don't even pull you over. Now, there been quite a few times where I've seen somebody going super fast. I'm talking maybe, if I had to put a number on it, they probably flying down the road 120 miles an hour on the interstate and on the highway. And so a cop will speed up, catch up to them, roll the window down, and you'll see them pointing, like they giving them a tongue lashing, la, 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 and they don't even pull them over. After they get through doing that little tongue lashing, the car slow down or the motorcycle slow down, and then the cop just pull back off and go on about his way. They ain't even trying to pull you out the car. They ain't trying to run your tag. They ain't trying to run your license. They ain't trying to see if you got any warrants on you. They just there. I mean, just carefree about it. I've been stopped a time or two, and they don't ask. They ain't running no checks. They ain't trying to take your license. They ain't trying to call it in. They ain't doing nothing. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. Now, on the other hand, oftentimes they will set up roadblocks on the highway. They'll shut down the whole highway. They set up roadblocks. And everybody that pass through get a breathalyzer. Everybody. In the States, you'll be sitting up there, folk be up there complaining about their rights, and I don't have to do this, I don't consent to this, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, here, they start everybody, you don't want to get that, you don't want to blow on that thing, they taking you out your car. You know what I mean? Ain't no questions, ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But they oftentimes will have roadblocks, and they will check to make sure you're not drinking and driving or over the limit and whatnot. So I do find that cool. I appreciate it, because drinking and driving, if they can minimize the number of folks getting in accidents and dying from drinking and driving, I mean, it saves a lot on everybody. So many times the roadblocks, they'll just be in random places and places you least expected. And one of the things they do down at the beach, on during the weekends, and I even think during the weekdays in the evening hours. They'll block. There's only one way in to the beach and one way out, and maybe two ways in and out. But they got them roads locked down, and they checking everybody that's coming out of that beach, because they know a lot of folks down here get on that beach and they get to drinking that alcohol and they get to driving. So they will check for it. They definitely will check for that. Another thing that I thought was interesting, because Mexico is still kind of like the wild, wild west. You know what I mean? And the wild, wild west can kind of be good and it can kind of be bad. Like, for example, in Mexico, a man's home is his home. He can do whatever he want on his property, and nobody got no right to say anything to him about what he can do. And when I say man, I mean everybody, whether the woman as well, got to be inclusive about all these details now. But, a man's home is his home, and what happens on his property, it happens on his property. It's none of your business. If he has dogs and the dogs are barking and making a ruckus because it's on his property, it's his business. Ain't nothing you can say about it or do about it. Now, those rules might be different if you are in a privada. That won't fly there, but those are the exceptions and not the norm. So for example, here, it's not unusual, and I know they do this in other parts of the world. You might see 4 or 5 people on a motorcycle, none of them with helmets. And I'm talking about a man, the woman behind them, she might be holding the baby, and then there's another child behind her holding on to her for dear life, and they might even squeeze one more on that bad boy. So it's not unusual to see that here, and I hear other folks talk about it. It happens in other Asian countries as well, but that's a sight that you will oftentimes see here, and you will see people riding on back of pickup trucks. It might be 8, 9, 10 folks on the back of the pickup truck just standing up, going to work. And I remember back in the day in the States, it's illegal to ride in the back of a pickup truck. But here, wide open, you know what I'm saying? So I thought that was pretty cool. Let me see, I heard a little beep on the thing, make sure. So I thought that was pretty cool to see that. So another thing that you will see, now I ain't saying this right, I ain't saying this wrong, I'm just letting you know what I see regularly. So you could just be walking down the street or driving in a ride or Uber, and a joker will just whip it out and get the pen. Whether he's on side of the building, whether he's on side of a car, standing next to a truck, they'll just pee. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying that happens everywhere, but you're definitely going to see that happening. The other day, we went to this ostrich farm, and on the highway, guy got out his truck. He was just standing on the edge of the road and just peeing. Now, in the States, we'll try and go hide up in the trees or hide behind a tree and hide up in the bushes and whatnot and try and do all that. No, they just right there on the spot. Ain't nobody thinking about it. They peeing right there. You know what I mean? So I thought that was, again, the wild, wild west. And now I don't want to give the impression that folks are just riding around just peeing all on all the public buildings, peeing downtown, on historical buildings and peeing it all up in the park. Although it can happen, I'm just making you aware that at some point you will see it more often than not. So don't be surprised. So before, I got about 8 more. Yeah, I got about 8 more. Before we get to those 8, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor. Many of the people who watch our videos are business owners and entrepreneurs, and one of the biggest areas that business owners struggle is in marketing. If your marketing is not good, then the people who would have been your best customers will never know who you are. SEO Ranked Media specializes in driving targeted traffic directly to your website from Google, and they actually guarantee the results. Plus, they offer flexible month-to-month services with no long-term contracts, and that's because they're confident that you'll see the results and you'll want to stick around. Click the link in the description box to get a free audit of your business website so that you can be clear on where your website currently stands and how to improve it. It's completely free with no strings attached, no credit card information or anything like that is required. So I got the link in the description. Click on that and go get your free audit. It makes all the difference in the world because exposure for your business is important. Like he said, if nobody knows about your business, it serves you no good. So thank you, SEO Rank Media. All right, so let's get on back to that list of things here. One thing that you will see here are vendors everywhere selling any and everything. So you can go to the grocery store and it's not unusual to have somebody in the parking lot selling tamales right out the trunk of their car. And sometimes the best tamales come out of somebody's car. There's a place down here in Cholula at the Super Arcade Grocery Market. I get my tamales from that guy, and his stuff is off the chain. There's another lady on the other side of town in Cholula. They sell their stuff out of the OXXO parking lot. They sell these cookies and these pastries. She sells these Argentine, what do you call them, from Argentina? I can't remember the name of them. They kind of shaped like little half moon pies, empanadas, and really, really, really good stuff. So you'll see people selling them out their trunk. They'll be in the parking lot, and not just stuff like that, but fruits and drinks and ice creams and crema de coco. I mean, they got some good stuff. You just riding down the street and you just pull up on side of the road and order your stuff, and they bring it to your car. And sometimes you get the best deals on side of the road, and the food is good. Don't let folks trick you and convince you that the food is unsafe or that you're going to get sick. I eat the street food all the time. My kids eat the street food all the time. And, I only been sick one time, and that was because I made a dumb choice to eat some food that I shouldn't have ate. My kids had enough sense to say, no, we don't want none, Daddy, you good. And I ate it, and I was sick like a dog. But that was the one and only time that ever happened. But that did not deter me from eating and enjoying the food that folks sell. So I don't know if anybody can just randomly sell stuff, particularly foreigners. I don't know. Maybe one day I can ask an attorney if that would be an issue, because I highly doubt all of these folks that are out on the street selling stuff have any kind of license or anything like that. So, because somebody asked me the other day if they came down here and wanted to sell stuff, would it be an issue? So I'm gonna find an answer to that. It's a good question, but you'll see everybody out here selling candy. You'll see people out here selling coffee. You'll see people out here selling peanuts. They selling everything. Also, another thing that is different that you'll see here that you won't see in the U.S., and I talked about this briefly the other day, is when you go into the market or the supermarket and whatnot, you'll generally see a separate line that is available for seniors. So older people, they have a special line they can go into. They don't have to wait in the long line. They can get in and out. And that same line will also be available for handicapped folks in wheelchairs or crutches or whatever. Also, women that are pregnant, they can also use the line as well. So you generally will see that in many of the stores that you go into, especially the supermarkets, line for seniors. What else? So another thing that's different, like when you go to the restaurant or you go to the drive-through and you order food, they'll literally put like 2 napkins in the bag, 1 pack of ketchup. They don't put anything extra. in those bags. In the States, they just wasteful. For example, you can go to Taco Bell in the States, and they'll throw about 30 things of hot sauce or medium sauce in the bag, and they'll throw about 50 things of napkins in the bag, and that's the same thing at McDonald's. They'll throw 50 napkins in the bag. Here, no. You get 1 or 2 napkins, and you get 1 sauce. And if you want more, you gotta ask for it. And depending on where you're at, you might have to pay for it. So they don't give you nothing. And then when you ask for some more napkins, they hand you 2 more. You're like, dude, I need more napkins. He might hand you 1 more. Dude, I need some more ketchup. He might give you 1 more. They are not wasteful here at all. So I find that funny. It's frustrating to me sometimes because I don't think about it till after I don't pull it off, and I want to go sit in the park, drive in the parking lot, and eat somewhere. And I open up my stuff, and there's one ketchup and 2 napkins, and I'm like, really? And another thing is when they fill your soda up, they don't fill it all the way up. They be about 1.5 inches below, and it's like, man, I done paid all this money for this drink. Y'all need to fill my stuff up, especially since y'all ain't giving up no refills up in this bad boy. Fill my stuff all the way up, So, again, just differences from here and there. It's different. It's different. I talked about this in the previous video. Another thing that they do differently here is, in many cases, most cases, if you need some medicine, you just go to the pharmacy and ask for it, and they will hand it to you over the counter. You don't have to come back. You don't have to drop off a prescription and then come back 2 or 3 hours later. No, you walk in and say, hey, I need some metformin. I need some clonidine. I need some whatever. And they say, okay, and they hand it to you. That's it. You pay for it. Much of it is fairly cheap. You pay for it and you walk out the door. Another beauty is most of the pharmacies are connected on WhatsApp, which is like a messaging app that's used here, mainly in most Latin American countries. If I need some medicine, I can just write them in the app and say, hey, I need this, and they will bring it to my house. Because all these pharmacies are in every single neighborhood, so you don't have to go get the medicine, and most of them offer free delivery. You just tip the guy or the lady, give them a little tip, 50 cents, $1, and they bring the medicine over to you. Now, I don't know if the locals tip or not. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe a local can share in on that, but all the medicine you need, you can just go and get it. Now, the exception may be, for whatever reason, they generally want a prescription for antibiotics. So if you're getting antibiotics, you would typically need to get a prescription for that. But for the most part, everything else, free game. You don't need to bring a box. You don't need to bring a previous prescription. You don't need to bring a box. You just go in there and tell them what you want. And if you do need a prescription and you don't have a prescription or you don't have the box, you can generally walk into many of these pharmacies. There'll generally be a doctor on staff, and for like $3.50, $5 at max, you can see them, and they will write you up a prescription on the site, on the spot, and you can go back to the pharmacy and get your medicine. So again, unique differences, very convenient. I know, like in the States, go get some medicine, you got to drop it off. Like in Walmart, you got to drop it off, and you got to come back later in the day to get it. And no, you walk in there and right back out the door. So my daughter said this one about one of the other differences between Mexico and the United States is, at least where we live in Merida, they don't have department stores like they have in the States. So, for example, there's no TJ Maxx. There's no Ross. There's no Target. There's no, so yeah, I can't think of any other ones, but Michael's to go get your home craft goods. They don't have these big giant department stores like that. Most of the time, if you want some stuff, many people tend to go to the malls to buy stuff, or they'll find little small specialty shops that sell stuff, and you go get it from there. But the days of going to the Ross and TJ Maxx, you won't have those options here. Now, can't say that they exactly got equivalents of them because I haven't seen them. But at least, again, this is here in Merida. We do live in the South. So the South, we are in the southern part of Mexico. So things tend to be a little more laxed and a little slower paced in the South. So I don't know if this is the case up in the north, places like Mexico City, Querétaro, Guadalajara, and some of the other larger cities. Maybe they have them something similar, but they don't have that here. Another thing that stands out, a lot of stuff about the restaurants. So when you go to the restaurant and after you finish eating, you got to raise your hand and you got to ask for the bill. Then they bring the bill out. In the States, you put your credit card in this little black book, they close it and they take it to the back and they run it. Here, they don't do that. They bring a terminal to your table and they run the card there in front of you. And in that moment, they will ask you if you like to leave a tip, or they'll use the word propina, which means tip. And on the terminal, they'll show it to you. You can pick 10%, 15%, 20%, etc., or other. And so that's one thing that's different here. They don't run off to the back. In the States, it's almost like they want credit card fraud to happen. They go out of their way to make it easy for criminals to take your stuff. I mean, they could take your credit card to the back, take pictures of it, write it out, write it down, and have their way. But that don't fly here. I heard in Canada, because that's the first time I ever seen them do this, when I was in Canada, they said it's illegal for them to take the credit card back to the back away from the customer. So I don't know if that part is true in terms of it being illegal, but they do the same thing there. United States is the only place where they let them folks take your stuff to the back room and have their way with it. And if every single restaurant can have a terminal that they bring to the table and swipe your card right in front of you, why can't they do that in the States? Minimize on that credit card fraud. But it's like I say, they want jokers to get ripped off up in that camp, man. It don't make no doggone sense. So that's one thing you do here. You pay at the table, and then you off on your way. Another thing, I don't know if y'all get tired of this. They like, man, how many days? And I might make another video. If y'all want me to make another video up on this thing, I'll do that. I just got a couple of more to go, and we'll be done. And before I shoot off these other few, if you have any experiences or anything that I missed, post it down in the comments below. I would love to hear how it's different here for you, or whatever country you're in, how it's different. So go ahead and make sure you do that as well. So no grocery bags. I know that's a big thing in Canada and many other parts of the world. In other places, like even in the States, there are many cities and states where they don't give grocery bags. They don't plastic bags. You got to bring your own bag. And so most of the places here, you generally gotta bring your own bag, or they charge you for it. Even if you go into a high-end store, like say for instance, you go to H&M, the clothing store, and you buy something, and you could buy a whole lot of stuff. And if you want a bag, you gotta pay for it. They'll give you a real nice cardboard box type bag, paper bag from H&M, but you gotta pay for that bag. What else? A&E. I'm trying to think of some of the other stores. I think I went into a Mac store, an Apple store. They charged me for a bag. So yeah, most places you will have to purchase a bag, or you need to bring your own. So if you got a bunch of bags in the States and you moving here, bring them with you so you don't have to buy any more. I got a whole closet full because it took me a while to get used to remembering to take the bag with me. So every time I found myself at the store, I had to buy another bag because I didn't bring any with me. Another thing that you'll see people do in the grocery store, they won't have a bag at all. They'll just load everything in the basket, and then they'll scan it, and then they go to the car, pop the trunk, and they just load everything up in the trunk of the car, and then I guess they just carry it out piece by piece when they get home. So I've done that a few times because I was like, I refuse to buy another bag. I'm tired of buying these doggone bags. I got plenty. So I'll just load my back up and roll out to the back of the car and just dump it all in there and be done with it. So another thing, and I talked briefly about this in another video as well, they damn near deliver everything to your house. So if you buy something on Facebook Marketplace, like yesterday, we found one of those 3-door refrigerators on Marketplace. They open that way, and there's a big drawer that pull out, which is the freezer. And we paid like 6,000 pesos for it, so that's $300. So we went to go check it out just so we can get a visual on it. Because oftentimes you don't even need to go check it out. If you know exactly what you're getting, you only need to go. But so we bought this thing from a repairman, went down there, looked at it. All right, we good. And he was like, all right, if y'all want it, I'll deliver it. And so most places will deliver your stuff. So like in the United States, you have Craigslist, you buy a washer and dryer, or you might buy a sofa set. And I'm talking about used stuff. Just used stuff that you buy secondhand. You might buy a TV or something like that. Then you got to find somebody to transport it. Well, most of the time, the people that are selling the stuff, they will have it transported for you. They might charge an extra $5. You're like, hey, I'll bring it to you for $5. And you know, people order vapes for like 20 pesos, $1. They'll bring it to your house. They literally get on the car or motorcycle and they'll drive a vape to your house. What else? I mean, everything. Nothing is off limits. Like last year for Christmas or the year before, kids wanted an iPhone. I found a good deal on Facebook Marketplace. They brought it to my house. And they always say with no obligation, I'll bring it to you. You can look at it. If you like it, great, buy it. If you don't like it, no obligation to buy, and that's that. So we bought a cell phone that way, bought a PlayStation, an older PlayStation 4. They brought it to the house, plugged it up, made sure it all worked, and boom, walked out. And like I say, they brought it to the house, and we bought it. I think they only charged like 50 pesos extra, like $2.50 to drive it across town. Sometimes it ain't even worth the effort to go get it. So a lot of this stuff, practically everything, if you decide to go on there and you want to buy a generator, somebody will bring it to you. That's one thing I like. They make it easy, whether you buying something used or whether you buying something new. And so it's convenient here. That's why I say you kind of buy a lot back. Making the move down here, you get a lot more quality life back because a lot of the stuff that you had to do, you don't got to do no more. You can just hand it off to somebody else and let them do it. You see what I'm saying? Last but not least, the other thing that is different, well, similar in the States, I guess, but here, like, and I might be off on the time that, again, maybe this is a local thing. It may be different in the larger cities, but here, you can't buy alcohol after 10 p.m. The computers lock down, they shut down, they'll go in there, they shut down all the refrigerators, so you can't get it. And even if you were able to get it and you attempted to buy it and scan it, the system won't allow the transaction to happen. The computer totally locked down. And on Sundays, you can't buy alcohol after 7:30 p.m. So just look at little differences. So listen, Mexico, we've been here now 3.5 years. It's been absolutely amazing for us. We absolutely love it. One of the kids going to start looking at going to college next fall. You can go to college here, get a 4-year degree. We're talking less than $5,000 total. And that's if you go to a private school. So public schools are even cheaper than that. And so you got options. By being a resident here, you get access to a lot of things and good quality of life, man. And for those of y'all that are thinking about making a move here, consider it. Mexico is very close to the United States. It's not at all what the media makes it out to be. Mexico was the last place on my mind when a friend of mine was like, you should come check out Mexico. And I was like, man, I ain't coming to no daggone Mexico for what? And to my surprise, I'm disappointed that I didn't make this move a long time ago. And Mexico is sitting right next door. I know a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about just seems like it's unbelievable, it's unreal, but man, we've helped a ton of families make the move here, relocate, make the transition, and I'm seeing it firsthand. They're thriving. They're no longer just surviving, but they're thriving. And this can be you. You don't have to struggle. And now everybody's situation is not financial. I've mentioned before, mine is financial. I needed to get caught up for retirement. I didn't save. I didn't invest. I have no retirement. I've been an entrepreneur. I spent all my funds and money just enjoying life in the moment and didn't plan for the future. And so when I had to look things over, I had to come to the realization that, okay, I'm 50. I turned 51 tomorrow. It's like, man, I want to get this wrapped up before I'm 60. I got 10 good years to get things sorted out. I want to buy a house, pay it off in cash. But before I turn 60, I want all this done. No house, no car, no solar panels on my house, so I don't have no electric bill. I want all my expenses to be minimal. And so because I don't want to be worried and stressed out trying to figure out how I'm going to eat. Don't want to be a burden on my adult children who are now trying to live their lives. I had my chance to get it right. I don't want to impose on them because I didn't do right. So these next 10 years is critical. And it's not too late for y'all, for you. I think, some folks, their pension might only be $1,500 a month. And they're barely getting by. They're struggling in the States. But $1,500, now I'm not going to paint a pie in the sky dream that you can come over here and live like a king for $1,500. But I can say you're going to live a whole lot better on those $1,500 than you are in the States, because your biggest expense is going to be a place. I show houses and apartments all the time. Apartments where people are paying only $300 a month for rent on the apartment. Now, if you're in a position where you can actually buy a house and don't have a mortgage at all, that $1,500 is freed up all the way. But even if you have to pay, you can find a place for $300 a month. Now, it's not going to be a big, grandiose place, but it's going to be in a very safe neighborhood. You're not going to have to worry about somebody trying to rob you, steal from you, mug you, or anything like that. But yeah, you're going to be very comfortable. You'll be able to afford high-speed internet. You'll be able to afford cell phone plan running $10 a month versus $50 a month in the States, or $100 a month in the States. You can get high-speed internet for $15 a month versus $70 a month in the States. You know what I mean? So you can actually afford. I went out today and bought tacos and tortas for 5 of us, a household. That was our dinner for the day. It was $25 to feed all of us, and there was still some left. So there's some left for tomorrow for lunch. So if you went to that place by yourself, you can get a drink, 3 or 4 tacos, and I'm talking about big tacos with all the fixings on it. And I'm talking less than $5. You know what I mean? And that could be a beer that you're drinking. So you don't have to struggle. You got options, you got opportunities, you just got to exercise them. Now, I know a lot of folks say, well, because of my pension, I don't qualify, I don't meet the financial solvency requirements. There's a loop around, there's a loophole, there's a workaround. I've talked about, find that video on my channel where I talk about this loophole. Right now, we're at the end of December 2024. And if you've never been to Mexico before, you need to get here before January 1st. So essentially, you got about 20 days to get your butt here so that you can get a stamp in your passport showing that you was here in 2024. Because if you do that, 1 year later, in January 2026, so we're going to skip over 2025, but 1 year later in 2026, you will qualify. You can qualify for a residency program under something that is called the regularization program, the RNE. With this program, you don't need to prove income. You don't need to have a job. You don't have to meet the financial requirements, and you can do the entire process while you're here in Mexico. So I'm not going to go into detail about that now, but 1 year from now, you can qualify for that program. For many of you, it's going to take about 6 months to a year to plan and make the move anyway. So, hey, if you don't meet those requirements, figure out how you can get your butt here before January 1st. You want to get a stamp on your passport for 2024 so that you can qualify for this program, because 2024 is over. Now, if you did this thing that I'm talking about now in the middle, say in January or March, you have to wait all of 2024 to end, all of 2025 to end, and then qualify in 2026, almost 2 years. But because we're at the end, they go by calendar years here, because we're at the end of 2024, you essentially got to wait 1 year and 20 days from now to qualify for residency. You will get a 4-year residency, assuming the program is still active, which all indications suggest that it's going to continue. An official word just came out that it's going to continue through 2025. So again, it's going to most likely continue. It's a cash cow. It's a money-making thing for the government, Mexico, and it's a loophole for those that don't meet financial requirements the other way. They can get residency this way. So if you want to talk about it, book a telephone consultation with me. Let's hop on the phone. The other alternative is to join our VIP membership. And in that membership, there's a section there called Ask Cortez. You can ask me all the questions you want. I'll generally respond within 48 hours. And it's cheaper than doing a telephone consultation. So pick your poison, telephone consult or join the VIP membership. I have links down below, and get your questions answered. I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure you support our sponsor, SEO Rank Media. Their link is down in the description as well. And thank you for watching. I hope you found this helpful.